I love cartoons, specifically cartoon series from the 80s and 90s. Whenever someone asks me what my favorite childhood cartoon is, I always say that there are two. The first is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the second is Darkwing Duck. I was the biggest fan of this masked mallard, and who wouldn't be? Darkwing Duck was brave, smart, egotistical, and accident-prone, but would always persevere against evil. He had a killer costume and some cool equipment to fight the bad guys, which made up an awesome rogues gallery that was a bit of a joke, but also surprisingly formidable. This cartoon was also not afraid to show its love for classic superhero comics at a time when they still weren't understood by the general public. It even broke through the Iron Curtain at the height of the Cold War. But does this cartoon from the early 90s still hold up? Is it a silly animated series that is now a chore to watch? Or is it still the incredible show that I remember? Well, as Darkwing himself would say,
let's get dangerous.
In this episode of Gone, but Not Forgotten. Darkwing Duck was created by Edward T. Tad Stones, an animator, storyboard artist, screenwriter, producer, and director. Tad started working for Disney back in the 70s, training under the tutelage of Disney animator Eric Larson. Larson was a legend in the animation field since he had worked for Disney since the 1930s, and Tad Stones would go on to become one of the people behind the formation of the Disney Afternoon, working on such classic shows as Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and the Gummy Bears. The origin of Darkwing Duck is an interesting one. Originally, Tad Stones was approached by Jeffrey Katzenberg to make a spin-off of DuckTales based on the episode Double O Duck. Katzenberg thought that name would be marketable to children, but Stones wasn't thrilled, as he thought the idea was a bland parody. In his words, it didn't have any heart. It wasn't Disney. So he presented the pitch, and Katzenberg replied, "This is just a parody. It doesn't have any heart. It's not Disney." So Tad had a second pitch. What if he was like the classic pulp characters from the 40s, such as Doc Savage? The original pitch would have Darkwing having a team that would support him out on missions. Another episode of DuckTales that influenced this pitch was the one titled The Masked Mallard. This episode revolved around Scrooge McDuck becoming a superhero. It's one of my favorite episodes of DuckTales, and you can see where Darkwing's look originated from here. But everything changed when they learned that the term Double O was already trademarked by the people who owned James Bond. So the name had to be dropped, and the pitch mutated into a superhero show. Tad said that what sold the pitch was when they decided to answer the question, what if Batman had a kid who wouldn't stay at home? This is when the character of Goslin was introduced, whom Stone said was based on what he thought his 2-year-old daughter would be like when she grew older. Launchpad McQuack was in the original pitch as one of the members of his team, so he was kept around as Darkwing's sidekick and pilot, although he had to be tweaked a bit for the series since in DuckTales he was always crashing his plane. It always surprises me whenever I hear people say that Batman was the inspiration for Darkwing Duck's appearance. I can see why, since in that DuckTales episode, Scrooge's superhero look is clearly Batman. But if you pay attention, it was actually one of the classic characters that inspired Batman, the Shadow. I'm surprised people don't see it.
I am the terror that flats in the night. I am the switch that derails your train. I am Darkwing Duck.
The Christ was that?
Who's there? The weed of crime bears bitter fruit.
I don't like this. This stinks. Let's get the hell.
Another interesting fact was that the name Darkwing came about as a contest. When the original title of the show had to be dropped, a new name was needed. But no one could come up with one, so Stones decided to make a contest. If anyone could come up with a name for the show, they would win $500. Eventually, writer and producer Alan Burnett submitted the name Darkwing. Tad Stones loved it since it reminded him of Nightwing from DC Comics. So he added Duck to Darkwing, and voila, Darkwing Duck. Kind of fitting that the man who wrote and produced the best Batman cartoon would be the guy who coined the name of one of the best Duck superheroes ever. Darkwing Duck was unique, as other than Launchpad, the show was one of the few cartoons in the Disney afternoon made up of original characters. You had Gosselin Mallard, who was played by veteran voice actress Christine Cavanaugh. Gosselin was always getting into trouble, as she would always sneak around and get involved in Darkwing's adventures. Sometimes she would be a liability, as she would end up getting captured and needed to be rescued. But quite often she would be the one to help Darkwing crack the case. Cavanaugh was the voice of so many of our favorite cartoon characters from our childhoods. She was the voice of Babe in the, Babe movies. She was Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, and my personal favorite, Chucky Finster from Rugrats. Sadly, Cavanaugh would pass away in the year 2014. Another memorable voice on the cast was one of Darkwing's arch-nemeses, Megavolt, voiced by Homer Simpson himself, Dan Castellaneta. I really loved how he brought his unhinged stupidity to this electric-powered villain. Other great voice actors were Katie Lee as Gosselin's best friend, Honker, Terry McGovern as Launchpad, Rob Paulson as the villainous Steel Beak, Tino Insana as Bushroot, Calf Susie as Darkwing's true love, Morgana, only to name a few. But it was the legendary Jim Cummings who would bring Darkwing Duck to life. In my opinion, Jim Cummings is the VIP of voice acting. He is right up there with Mel Blanc. The man has voiced so many iconic characters, and I find it amazing how his voice can just morph into whatever role that he's required to perform. Here's an example of just a fraction of his abilities.
Let's get dangerous, pal. Oh, you know, girl, look at here. Let's get dangerous, yeah. Woo, you know that's right. Let's get dangerous.
Let's get dangerous. Duck. What is a duck?
Oh, bother. Let's get, dangerous. Let's get dangerous. Oh, yeah, man. Let's get dangerous. Let's get dangerous, chap. With a slice of cheese on the side.
Cummings has said that of all his roles, Darkwing Duck is his favorite. He said it was because it was the first character he ever had to come up with a voice for. I don't think I could ever see anyone else play Darkwing Duck, although Chris Diamantopoulos did voice him in the DuckTales reboot and did a great job. But we will talk later about Darkwing Duck's return. Another fun aspect of Jim Cummings' performance was Darkwing's taunts to intimidate his enemies.
I tend to ad-lib a lot. We were about 5 or 6 shows in, and my mad lack of genius took over, and it would be, I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the bug that splatters across the windshield of crime. They don't know where they're going now, do they? I am Dark, you know, and then it would be that. And about maybe 10 shows in, I remember reading, I am the terror that flaps in the night. It doesn't matter what I write here, Jim's gonna make something else up anyway. I am Darkwing Duck.
But now let us talk about another classic aspect of this show, the theme song. This iconic theme song was composed by Philip Giffen, written by Steve Nelson and Thomas Sharp, and performed by Jeff Pescetto. This song happens to be among my top 5 favorites, right up there with the Gummy Bears theme song and Denver the Last Dinosaur. Side note, I don't even like Denver the Last Dinosaur, but that theme song rocks. The Darkwing Duck theme is one of those melodies that just burrows into your heart and stays there. Fun fact for you, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who plays the new Gizmo Duck in the DuckTales reboot, said,
"The Darkwing Duck theme song is so important to my development as a man, as an artist, as a songwriter.
Sure.
So my first awareness of a triple internal rhyme was when there's trouble you call DW,
Sure.
which I went on to use in my Tony-winning musical In the Heights when Nina sings,
Can't believe this is happening.
just me and the GWB asking G Nina, what'll you be?"
You every
was
time.
You can
in your
trace
head
a
when you did
direct
that?
line from Darkwing Duck to my first show.
I think one of the reasons why Darkwing Duck still resonates with a lot of us is the writing. Some episodes served as tributes to classic comic books. A perfect example is the episode titled A Ducky Phobia, which is a blatant tribute to Spider-Man. This episode is about Darkwing getting spider powers and renaming himself Arachno Duck. The Secret Origins of Darkwing Duck is an episode that serves as a clear tribute to Superman, while Going Nowhere Fast has a lot of nods to The Flash, like when they mention two doctors named Dr. Allen and Dr. Garrick, the same as the alter egos of The Flash, Barry Allen, and his Golden Age counterpart, Jay Garrick. There are so many episodes I love that it's so hard to pick my favorites. But among my top 5 would have to be Tiff of Titans, an episode which features Darkwing and Gizmo Duck meeting for the first time. It has the classic two heroes hate each other and then team up to beat the bad guy cliche, but I didn't care that it had been done before. I just love seeing these two together. This brings us to the classic two-parter episode, Just Us, Justice Ducks. Fun fact, many people think that the Justice Ducks were a failed pitch for a spin-off, but Tadstones would finally comment on Twitter to debunk this urban legend. As you can obviously tell, the comic book-inspired episodes were some of my personal favorites. I think this was because this was not something seen very often at the time. Pure comic book love. There were so many episodes that were either inspired by comics or were full of comic book Easter eggs. My other two favorite episodes would have to be Life, the Negaverse, and Everything, and Time and Punishment. Life, the Negaverse, and Everything featured my favorite Darkwing Duck villain, Nega Duck. He was the evil doppelganger of Darkwing Duck. In his first appearance, Nega Duck is just the evil aspect of Darkwing's personality, when he's accidentally split in two by Megabolt's Tron Splitter Ray. When the episode was produced, Tad loved the Nega Duck character and wanted him to come back. So the writers decided to bring him back by making him a completely new character. This time, they would make him an alternate universe version of Darkwing. In this episode, we finally see his home dimension of the Negaverse, which is a clear tribute to Earth 3 from the DC universe, where the evil versions of the Justice League, the Crime Syndicate, happen to live. Another great comic book Easter egg is that Nega Duck's costume is clearly based on the Flash's archenemy, the Reverse Flash. I guess I'm just a sucker for evil dimensions, as anyone who saw our previous episode on Sliders can certainly tell you. Some other great episodes are a Twin Peaks tribute episode called Twin Beaks, or Twitching Channels, an episode where Darkwing is transported to our world, when Darkwing has to deal with Hollywood making money off of his adventures. But I think the best episode of Darkwing Duck was Time and Punishment. In the episode, Gosselin accidentally gets transported to a dark future where Darkwing has become Dark Warrior Duck. In this timeline, Gosselin disappears and Darkwing becomes unhinged, turning into a twisted version of himself. Dark Warrior becomes a despot, as he's taken over St. Canard, where he puts people in jail for life, just for littering or jaywalking. You can see nods to Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns in the episode, but Dark Warrior's look is a lot like Judge Dredd's costume. Isn't it funny that a future version of Batman would also use robots to police Gotham City in Kingdom Come, just like Dark Warrior does? What I love about this episode is the relationship between Dark Warrior and Gosselin, which just goes to show how important Gosselin is to Darkwing. Darkwing Duck was a huge hit when it first aired. In fact, it was one of the first animated shows that was syndicated in the Soviet Union. This was a huge accomplishment, considering that this was during the Cold War, and Russia was very strict on what American media could be shown in their country. So I'm sure you're wondering why Darkwing Duck was canceled. I mean, it was clearly a hit. Well, technically, it wasn't canceled.
Those Disney afternoon shows weren't canceled. As people say, why did they stop making them? It was the business model of the time that you did 65 episodes and you just repeated them forever. With Darkwing, what happened while we were in production, ABC heard about the show and they said, we want to do 13 episodes of Darkwing Duck.
The show would end up with a total of 91 episodes. So in December of 1992, the last produced episode of Darkwing Duck was aired, and fans said goodbye to the terror that flaps in the night. Until 2017, that is, when Darkwing Duck returned to the small screen on the DuckTales reboot. In this continuity, Darkwing is a fictional character from a now canceled TV show. The original actor, Jim Starlin, has become bitter and tries to sabotage a movie reboot of his TV show. Drake Mallard is an actor and the president of the Darkwing Duck fan club. This new Darkwing fights Jim Starlin, who has now taken up the mantle of Negaduck. The Darkwing Duck episodes of the DuckTales reboot are some of my favorites. I highly recommend that you go watch them. So that leaves us with the question, will Darkwing get a new series? Well, since 2020, a reboot has been in the works, with Tad Stones set to serve as a consultant. But as of now, there has been no news as to the development of a new series, which has led many fans to worry that this new Darkwing Duck is stuck in development hell. I, for one, hope not. The new Rescue Rangers film has proven that these classic Disney afternoon cartoons are a valuable IP, so Darkwing is definitely on the high value list. Hell, even in the Rescue Rangers movie, Darkwing himself has given the battle cry to fans to demand that he return to the small screen.
Boo hiss! We want Darkwing! We want Darkwing! Say it with me! We want Darkwing! What a load of malarkey!
At this time, if you want new Darkwing Duck content, then I highly suggest you pick up the new Dynamite Darkwing Duck comics. Amanda Delbert has penned some great stories for this series, and Carlo Loro's artwork is amazing. But if you're interested in seeing the classic Darkwing Duck episodes, you can find them on Disney+. Well, almost all of them. There is one episode of Darkwing Duck that was originally banned, and I think Disney Plus may have either accidentally or purposely excluded this episode from their library. The episode in question is titled Hot Spells, which involves Gosselin making a deal with the devil. I don't think I have to say why it was banned. It's pretty obvious. Still, last time that I checked, someone had uploaded it to YouTube, and I believe you may still be able to watch it on Disney Plus outside of the United States. But since I live in the United States, I cannot confirm it. So I would say that you viewers should don your cape and hat, sit back on your couch with your trusted remote, and watch the greatest duck superhero become the terror in the night. Just make sure you watch out for his pesky gas gun. I'm Jesse Shade speaking on behalf of David Arroyo for JoBlo.com, and thanks again for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the JoBlo Originals channel. Tell all your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company that appreciates all of your support, and we will see you next time for the next episode of Gone, But Not Forgotten.